We need to talk. Welcome back. This is episode 4 of the RLoJ series, and if you're new here, RLoJ stands for Ridiculous Lapse of Judgement. And explanation for those is going to be either in the description or in a previous video, and I recommend starting at video 1. It gets good, it gets good, it gets better. Now, what I was learning about today involves two systems. One being stress, the other being knowledge. And when we intertwine the two, we begin to think that if we're knowledgeable, then we know how to avoid stress. When in reality, stress is knowledge. Let me explain. Let's start off with exercise, which is a well-known stressor. When we exercise, when we do resistance training, which is essentially just strength training, lifting weights, calisthenics, whatever we're doing, we are applying stress to our bones. We are applying stress to our muscles. But as biological beings, as humans, we are able to self-repair up to a point when our genes don't allow us to anymore. But this self-repair process actually builds us up to be stronger than we were had we not been stressed, had we not underwent this stressful endeavor. That's just one example that I want to use here. When it comes to inanimate objects don't tend to experience stress the way we experience stress. So I always find it interesting when someone's trying to avoid stress, which we can handle up to a threshold. Emotional, mental, physical, yes, all of them we can handle up to a certain point. But when people are trying to avoid stress and live a stress-free life, that leads to missing out on all the gains that they could be reaping in on. For example, when someone has traumas, if someone goes through exposure therapy, which tends to be highly effective, then they're experiencing a lot of stress, in the moment. But when they get out of exposure therapy, when they learn the principles, when they learn the tactics, when they learn the strategies, they are then able to re-enter the real world with this newfound ability that they didn't have when they were simply going through, a certain level of stress. They had to elevate it. So this is a quick one. This is just about elevating your level of stress, not being a bad thing, because the stress tells you that you're doing better, but it's also information. It tells you how much, when you reach the threshold and when you have too little, you're going to be experiencing a lot of emotional turmoil. And a lot of people are confused about that when they reach the bottom. But it's because you're not preparing yourself for what's to come. If you are living a life with very, very little stress, that is either because you are incredibly prepared or you're removed from reality for the most part.
It's my first day out in the world!
And then when reality comes to check you, it's going to give you the biggest check. The biggest check. I'm talking, the checks that they deliver to the door back in like the 90s when they ring your doorbell and it's like, hey, you have like 2 people holding up the check and it's like, hey, this is yours. It's a big check. Big check mark and that. So this is just a reminder that stress is knowledge and that you don't have to constantly try and avoid it unless you are entirely incapable of handling the level of stress that you're at. Then of course you want to minimize it. But otherwise, take on more stress. Get more knowledge. Understand how to build yourself so that you can be better than you were before you took the dive. I'll see you in the next one.